Shelton.
From Texas,
Who lives in a Tuff Shed TR 1600.
When we first bought the property, I didn't know where we wanted to put the cabin. Well, first we bought 8 acres, and we were having a hard time deciding where everything needed to go and all that, because 8 acres really didn't seem like a whole lot to me at the time. I know that's a lot more than a lot in town, but still, it was heavily wooded. I hated to take out any more trees than I needed to, except for the cedar trees, because they are bad for our other trees. We got big, beautiful oak trees here. And but then about, I don't know, several months later, the 20-something acres behind us came up for sale. So we ended up getting that. So we had this plan starting to develop, but then we added more acreage. So then our plan changed. So we were talking last night about, one of our pieces of advice to people is just be flexible and let the property speak to you and on where everything needs to go. You don't just rush into it and throw something down, unless you have to. Some people have different situations, but
right.
Well, we were willing to be flexible. So
that's the thoughtful process that should go into. If you have the opportunity to buy land, then obviously, you need to listen to the land and see, look at it, walk around on it.
Stay there through sun up, sundown.
Yep.
Spend time there and just, bring you some lawn chairs and sit around and just kind of get a feeling for it.
That's exactly right, because areas feel different too. You may sit in one area and go, there's just something about this spot that I just don't like. And, you may never, ever be able to determine what that is. And then you may walk 30 feet in a different direction and sit down and go, oh my gosh, this is the spot. So,
and then something comes along and presses you to say, okay, well, we got to make a decision. And then you do it. And then you realize, wow, it's like this cabin has always been here. It's like it was meant to be.
Right.
Here
That's exactly right.
That's such great advice.
Yeah.
The other thing we had to take into advice is that we already had some easement to some property behind us. And then we had to take into account where we decided to put the well. How long are we going to run piping? And by the way, Barry dowsed for the well, which I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, he has, I don't know, this weird gift. Yes, he did a dowsing rod. He said, we're going to hit water at 150 feet. And dadgum if he wasn't right. I told him he should sell his services. But anyway.
It's crazy how well that works.
Yeah,
I was not a believer, but I
was not either.
It's weird. I don't know.
Weird.
I could be Barry the Dowser Smith.
Barry the Dowser. But yeah, there are you have to take into account how your property feels and how far you want to run water and where the electrical is and all those things that are important. And most people like us, just like you, we flipped a couple of houses, but we had never built houses from scratch,
Right.
So we just felt like we needed to take it a little bit at a time and, incrementally do things. We've just put some fencing in that the dog got out of this morning. But, we're just sort of trying to evolve our property as we live here for our needs at the time. We talked about putting a porch downstairs, eventually we do that. And I encourage everyone when they're building, make sure you have a way to expand. Right? Because you may not want to live tiny. You may have to have, somebody else come live with you. You may have to do all kinds of things. So on both of our houses on our property, because, we built one for our daughter first. It was going to be ours. And then she needed it more than we did. So we gave her that one.
That house is so cute, too.
Oh, thank you. There's some things I hate about that house, but
some of our neighbors call it the Beetlejuice house.
They call it the Beetlejuice house.
Oh, it's cool. I love it.
Now, it's supposed to have wrap porches, but when you're living mortgage-free and trying to decide where you're spending money, porches are something that are sort of disposable. So eventually that house will have wrap porches, and then I'll like it a lot better. But it's on piers, so it's really high. And I don't love that. But anyway, I wish I had spray foamed under. That's the big problem, I think, there. But now I'm trying to decide if I want to do that. But anyway, we felt like we just let the property evolve, and we put our house behind hers. And now it's just sort of this little homey place that's turned into something that we would never have. If we started out, we would never have had the site plan that we ended up having.
Right.
And that's the important thing, I think, too. That was another bit of advice, is have a site plan, figure it out, draw it out on paper, draw it out on a napkin, whatever, but just kind of have an idea. What do you want? Like, what is your overall goal for your property? Because like ours is, we have we have these 4 cabins, the 3 that we haven't finished yet, and then the one we're living in. And overall, and then we're going to call it a dance hall, because we're going to have an indoor stage and have a dance hall, and we're going to have a little bar, and we're going to have a large kitchen in there. And it's going to be basically it's going to be a main hangout for everyone to converge. If they want to hang out with somebody, you go there. If you want your privacy, go back to your cabin, kind of like a wedding venue, if you will. Like,
I was going to say, sounds like you need to be having weddings there. But, one of the things we fell in love with about that sort of exploded house, we went to a dude ranch. And we had a dining hall where everybody gathered. And then we had our own little cabin, which was probably 20 by 15, maybe.
Yeah.
And we loved that privacy that we had in our little cabin, and then meeting everybody in the dining hall. So when you get your dining hall, I want to come stay in one of your cabins.
You're welcome to come.
Are you going to build a bandstand, though? That's the big question.
Barry's a drummer. He'll bring his drum.
How are you? Well, my brother is a musician as well, and my father as well. So I come from a musical family, and so yes, we're going to have an indoor stage. We'll have a place for the band to set up. We already have that. We built it one time already. We built it at my mother-in-law's place, which is only like maybe an acre and a half or an acre. So that was one of the things that we decided when we started this whole process, was we wanted one place to consolidate all our stuff and rebuild it and build it on enough property where we can do it right. And then eventually my mother-in-law will come and live with us on our property. So we want everything on one property.
I love it. I love it. And so do you ever think about...
It's not the norm. People don't really... I don't think people think about... they think, I build a house in town. I go to work. I come home. I stay in this little lot next to all these people. And, people don't really... It's not really the normal way of thinking, I guess, about living. So we just kind of think outside the box, I guess.
I think that's true.
There are a lot of people out there, but I've not met too many.
I think
we're twins.
For us as a country, I think that we used to think that way. We used to, when the pioneers went out west and they had their property, that's one of the first things that they did was they walked around their property, or they probably rode around their property to see what was what would work better, in this location versus that location. Can I run cattle on this one? Can I run, put sheep or whatever on this one? Where am I going to put my horses? That kind of thing. We don't do that anymore, but we should. I think that's a much better way to live than to live in the big cities. And I don't have anything. I grew up in Atlanta basically, and I don't hate big cities. And I love London. No. We've traveled all over the world, but it's
just don't want to live there.
No, I don't want to live there. I love where we live.
Yeah, we're really lucky. There's a house behind us that I've had my eye on, and it came up for sale about 3 months ago, and I was like, I'm just not ready yet. But eventually I think it'll come up for sale again, and we'll buy that and just keep expanding like you guys have done. But
exactly.
Anyway.
Well, the 30 acres next to us came up for sale not long ago, and we tried, and it just didn't feel right. So we kicked it around, and then we decided, I think we better just stay on course with what we got, because it really didn't match up with our property. Like it didn't square it up per se.
Right.
So it would have been nice to have the extra property, but property around where we are is about, $17,000 an acre now.
Yeah.
So it was probably maybe $9,000 or $10,000 an acre when we started all this. So property is expensive, and people listening may think, when we're talking about living in the country versus the city, well, it's expensive, but it is. It's really hard to find. We had to go a little further out. We had to go a county over just to be able to get more property, for a better value, because where we were, it was just exploding, and the property prices were unreal.
Right,
So,
us too. I want to ask, I think we're probably getting close on time here, but I wanted to ask you a question about your codes. Are you in a county that requires codes?
No.
You are not.
The only thing you have to get a permit for is septic.
Awesome. Now, we have full International Building Code codes here, and they're a little picky because we're in a kind of a tourist town just north of Atlanta, where everybody comes to see the Christmas lights, and all kinds of Hallmark movies have been shot here, and they want to keep a certain aesthetic here. So 1 house per acre, septic, we're limited to 5 bedrooms on our septic because we put 2 houses on 1 septic, which was actually kind of nice. Not everybody can do that. But anyway, so we're very limited about what we can do with our property. Not terribly. It was a non-restricted, so we are not like a subdivision, right? And Georgia has just adopted Appointex Q, which allows small houses under 350 square feet, or I think it's 350 square feet to 800 or something. They used to, when we first built ours, there was a size limit too. So, we have all those things to deal with. But, the idea of being able to just put a cabin over here and 3 of them over there and build the dance hall and whatever, that just sounds like a lot of fun. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that if there is no codes, the guy who lives next door to you, back to the 50-acre conversation that, if you bought the other ones, the guy who lives next door to you, if he runs his sewer down the hill or throws all of his junk cars in the thing, I get that, because we want to live in places that are more natural rather than polluted, I guess, if you will, by people who just don't care. Yeah. So there's that balance, I think, between both of those. But anyway, I just was curious about what your code situation is. And, the thing that I'm trying to help people figure out, I have workshop that I put together to help people try to figure out how to do what we've done. And, they do run into so many obstacles. Texas, and as more and more of these sheds are becoming more and more popular, if people don't do it right, they will start outlawing them all around us in the counties around us. Now they've started adding in code about pre-manufactured buildings. Yeah. So I just think we have to be really careful about doing it well, right? And making sure that we can, keep the level of that up, I suppose. So we aren't living in shanties and shacks and cabins that people don't want to live near.
Well, most people don't want to live in something that, somebody else is going to come along and say, I'm sorry, you can't live here. Now, I do know that a lot of the I don't know how many actually, but a number of posts that I've seen online have had people giving advice like just go buy the property and put it up, and they can't do anything about it once you put it up. Well, that's not necessarily true. If you live in an area that has restrictions and you do something that they don't allow in their code, then they most certainly can come and take your house away from you.
Condemn it, fine you, all the things. But luckily you didn't have that issue.
But the other thing I want to ask, and this always cracks me up when I hear this, I've read a number of posts from people that say, oh, well, you build a tough shed like that or any shed kind of building, and it's just going to get blown over in a heavy wind. Has your house ever been blown over in a heavy wind?
Listen, when we got the house, when Tuff Shed left, there were things that had to be done to make it more sturdy. More bracing needed to be done. The upstairs, when you pushed on the end walls, they were wobbly. I could see where somebody might think that it would be blown over. But it was just the shell. But what we did, I'm telling you, if this house blows away, it's going to take a lot of wind, and it's going to end up wherever it is in one piece, because we went back and first of all, it's on a slab. It's on a concrete slab.
Right.
We added hurricane straps, and we did some additional bracing upstairs. Then we added spray foam after we did the windows, electrical, all that stuff. We had the spray foam added. We added a metal roof, 100-year metal roof. Then we did pine shiplap inside instead of drywall.
Right.
Which has a huge amount of rigidity, if that's the right word.
That is the right word.
2x6 tongue and groove flooring on top of the Tuff Shed OSB flooring upstairs, which added, a lot more rigidity. And then we added outside. Then we came back outside and we did the 1x12 board and batten cedar. over the wrap. And then, so, I mean, if this house blows away, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be a sight to see it going through there. So
y'all have made basically a monolithic structure that's never going to go anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. With the number of screws in that house, screwing down all the boards and stuff, I mean, it's one piece if it is. I mean, you could probably pick it up on a trailer and move it if you could get it off that slab.
Well, yeah, ours for code. Now, we did a 3-foot crawl space. And our, because we had to have our house inspected every time we turned around. Right. We did the hurricane straps. We did the big things. And then we did some additional. Well, we did earthquake bolts underneath.
Wow! Yeah.
Because we've never had an earthquake up here that I know of, but there is a subduction zone nearby that we could have an earthquake. So we had to put these earthquake bolts or whatever you call them. So our houses and our, oh my gosh, our decks, we had to build in such a way that you could land an aircraft carrier on them and they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Right.
I
don't know what codes would be, but I mean, I would live, I'm not going to live in just, if the Tuff Shed is dropped on my property, I'm not just going to throw up some sheetrock and move into it. That's just not what I'm going to do. I mean, I understand a lot of people need to do it on a different budget, and that's fine. Just be sure you bolt that thing down. I'm not a builder, but I know what feels sturdy.
Right.
You are now.
You are now.
Come on, you are now.
I have a lot of experience now, and so, but that's what I'm saying. Even if you're not a builder, you can look at something and push on something and feel it, and just, can you feel wind coming through it? I mean,
right.
Yep. Well, I think that the thing that starts to happen when you are building something for yourself and you think this is long term for me, you start evaluating, how do I want to do it? And if you do any sort of research, then you realize that, I want to be stronger. Hindsight, I wish we had done spray foam under the house, the first house we built. We'll probably go back and do that eventually. There's just things that but that was also our first building experience. I mean, we'd done some, cosmetic stuff, but not building. Now we've learned so much, but we also, and YouTube is more available and all these people doing this sort of thing. So doing the research and saying, how do I want to build? What do I want to have? Whatever you want to have is probably way more than the guy who's trying to make, $30,000 out of selling you that house, or $50,000 or whatever they're trying to, profit they're trying to do. Their job is to spend as little as possible on the product and sell it for the highest amount, right? Your job is to live in the very best house that you can. So I think usually people tend to go the opposite direction and go in the way of kind of overcode.
Right.
Yeah.
But what some people I don't think realize, in the beginning, you've got to be, you got to realize that it's probably going to take longer, and it's probably going to cost a little more than what you think it will.
Yeah.
You look at all the pictures online of what everybody's done, and you're like, oh, wow. And a lot of people ask, well, what did that cost you?
That's the first thing most people ask. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be different no matter, where you are in the country or the world. I don't know if they're doing it overseas, but, if you do things, if you think outside the box, you can cut corners here. I don't cut corners on the good, the important stuff like foundation.
Right.
Roof.
Is important. Good roof over your head, and then everything else you can kind of cut corners. Plumbing is not really somewhere you could cut corners so much, but like furniture per se. Like all of our cabinets are made out of antique furniture. Okay, so I didn't buy any cabinets anywhere. We retrofitted the cabinets or the furniture to fit the space.
Right.
That's cool.
So we save money there on cabinets. We save money on our granite countertops because get with your granite guys. They do these large jobs, and they have all of the leftover material that fits perfect in a tiny space. And you're not paying a ton. You're getting their cutoffs. You go to their cutoff yard and go, hey, what are you gonna do with that? And then, you can cut corners there. You can cut corners on so many things, but you can't cut corners on the foundation, the roof, and the insulation.
Right.
You gotta just bite the bullet.
or the electrical, because you don't want to plug something in and have sparks.
Right. Yeah, we laugh and say we don't do whatever would kill us. Like, we'll do a lot of DIY, but I don't crawl on roofs. I don't do electrical. And what else don't we do? We don't do plumbing because we think we might kill ourselves with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we've probably kept you longer than you probably planned, but wow, it was so interesting to hear you talk to us, and we sort of speak the same language, and obviously you guys have really got big plans. I can't wait to keep, I'm going to be a stalker now and follow you and see how that all comes out.
That's fine. When I started commenting on stuff when I joined these groups, I was just curious, and then I started commenting, and, people have really, shown a lot of love for our cabin, which I think it's really cool to inspire people and, help people do what, have the same dreams that we have. And
right.
It's something that I can do to give advice and give knowledge.
Us too.
It's a little weird. It was a little weird because our house went viral. It's been shared over 500,000 times, and it's a weird experience, let me tell you. Because we didn't know about it. No. And people would call up and say, "Is this your house?" Our friends. Yeah. Or be like, or they'd forward it to us.
We're private. We're kind of private people. I mean, we moved to the country to be left alone.
Right.
We want to do our thing and be left alone. But then whenever I started sharing and people started liking it and then asking a lot of questions, and I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, do I really want people to know where my
exactly
is or where my
right.
Well, us too.
Freaked out. But then I turned around. I'm like, you know what? I've got something to share that people want to know about. Why not?
That's right.
That's kind of what we've done. And so we've turned ourselves into, truly, we do this podcast. We have we're putting it on YouTube because so many people want to know. And then I'm starting another YouTube channel just with people like, people that have done other. So there's a lot of people that are doing tiny home YouTube channels, right? But very few people are doing sheds.
Right.
You can't really see and find all the things. So I'm going to eventually start doing that, or I've got some stuff that I'm working on. Because once you learn one skill, right, how to edit YouTube videos, how to find people that are, doing the same thing, it sort of snowballs from there. But there is so much need for people to have a reasonable place to house their family, particularly with COVID.
Yeah.
So
I think what you're doing is great. I think you have a huge audience. And so I think what you're doing is really great.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
We're having fun doing it.
We are. We are.
Well, you have to. Otherwise, it turns into a job.
That's right.
Exactly. And we don't want no more of those, right? We have plenty of jobs.
Exactly.
And then I can create new jobs by going, hey, honey, let's go build this, that, or the other thing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I have enjoyed this tremendously. I could go on for another hour.
Yeah, I know.
I could too. I could talk to you guys all day.
I've never met a stranger, so...
Clearly you haven't either, Delenn.
So when we all have the time...
Yep, we're coming to Texas.
Yeah, we're coming to Texas, and we can meet you, and you can come up here to the beautiful mountains of North Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I've never been to Georgia.
Really?
Y'all come on. Y'all come hang out in Texas.
Yep.
I love Texas.
Yeah, we do
I
too.
love parts of Texas.
Yeah.
Well,
Texas is like a country.
It is.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Delenn. I enjoyed it.
Hey, you're welcome.
It was a lot of fun.
I'm reaching out. It's awesome. It was nice talking to you guys.
Good to talk to you too.
Have a great day.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.